One simple day can tell you a great deal about your health. 3 nourishing meals, 1 light snack, a few relaxing walks, and a couple of cups of tea. That is what an ordinary day looks like for me. There is nothing extreme about it. There are no expensive detox programs, no restrictive cleanses, and no impossible rules that leave you frustrated after only a few days. Instead, it is a collection of simple habits that have gradually become part of my everyday life. Over the years, I have learned that lowering inflammation has very little to do with chasing the newest health trend. It has much more to do with repeating the right habits, often enough that they eventually become automatic. In this video, I want to take you through an entire day, beginning the moment I wake up and ending when I finally go to bed. Along the way, I will explain why each choice matters, what is actually happening inside the body, and how these small decisions quietly work together to support better long-term health. When people hear the phrase reducing inflammation, they often imagine an overwhelming list of foods they have to avoid forever. Others assume they need expensive supplements, complicated meal plans, or a complete lifestyle makeover. In reality, the answer is usually much simpler. Your body responds far more to what you do consistently than to what you do occasionally. One healthy meal will not transform your health overnight, just as one unhealthy meal will not ruin it. What truly matters is the overall pattern. Day after day, meal after meal, your body is constantly adapting to the choices you make. Those repeated choices slowly shape your metabolism, influence your immune system, support your digestive system, and determine how well your body manages inflammation over time. As you watch this day unfold, you will probably notice the same nutritional themes appearing again and again. Fiber naturally becomes part of almost every meal. Colorful fruits and vegetables provide an incredible variety of polyphenols. Healthy fats appear without requiring special effort. Fermented foods quietly support the digestive system without becoming the center of attention. None of these foods are included because they happen to be popular at the moment. They appear because decades of nutritional research continue leading us back to the same conclusion. A diverse diet built around whole plant foods consistently supports a healthier digestive system, a stronger immune response, and a more balanced inflammatory response throughout the body. Rather than forcing yourself to think about these nutrients every time you eat, the goal is to create a routine where they naturally become part of your everyday meals. The interesting part is that my day does not begin with breakfast. In fact, it does not even begin with coffee. Before I think about food, before I check my phone, before I read a single message or look at the news, I reach for a large glass of water. It may sound almost too simple to mention, but after spending an entire night without drinking anything, the body is naturally dehydrated. Water is lost continuously while you sleep through breathing, normal perspiration, and for many people, 1 or more trips to the bathroom during the night. Replacing those lost fluids first thing in the morning helps support normal circulation, digestion, and countless metabolic processes before anything else begins. It is one of the easiest healthy habits you can develop, yet many people overlook it because it seems too ordinary to make much difference. I still do not head toward the kitchen. Instead, I head outside. Even if I only have a few minutes available, I always make the effort to expose myself to natural morning light. Some mornings I simply stand on the front porch and enjoy the quiet. Other mornings I walk around the yard while everything is still peaceful. Whenever time allows, I take a slow walk through the neighborhood. The distance does not matter. I am not trying to burn calories or complete a workout before breakfast. The real objective is allowing natural sunlight to reach my eyes before bright screens begin competing for my attention. That single habit sends one of the strongest biological signals the body can receive early in the day. Inside every one of us is an internal biological clock that quietly regulates countless processes throughout the day. Scientists refer to this system as the circadian rhythm. It influences hormone production, digestion, metabolism, immune function, body temperature, mental alertness, and sleep. One of the strongest signals controlling that entire system is exposure to natural light shortly after waking. When sunlight reaches the eyes in the morning, it tells the brain that the day has officially begun. That message is then passed throughout the body, helping different systems synchronize with one another. You may never consciously notice this process happening, but your body certainly does. The better that internal clock stays synchronized, the more efficiently many important biological functions are able to operate. There is another reason I wait before eating breakfast. I want my body fully awake before asking my digestive system to begin working. After spending a little time outside, I add one more habit to the morning. Gentle movement. Nothing intense. Nothing exhausting. Just enough to encourage circulation and wake up the muscles naturally. Most mornings I enjoy taking a walk with my wife and our children. Sometimes I wear a weighted rucksack vest because I personally enjoy the additional challenge, but there is absolutely nothing special about that piece of equipment. A slow walk, light stretching, gentle yoga, several bodyweight squats, or almost any comfortable movement can accomplish exactly the same purpose. The goal is simply to activate the muscles, increase blood flow, gently raise the heart rate, and prepare the body for the rest of the day before sitting down to the first meal. By this point, my morning has followed a remarkably simple pattern. First comes water. Then comes natural sunlight. After that comes gentle movement. There has been no rushing, no unnecessary stress, and no scrolling through my phone while still lying in bed. These habits may appear ordinary, but that is exactly why they are so powerful. The healthiest routines are rarely the most exciting ones. They are simply the ones that can be repeated every single day without feeling difficult. Consistency almost always produces better results than intensity, especially when it comes to I finally sit down for breakfast. The good news is that breakfast has already been prepared because I made it the evening before. That means there is no cooking, no rushing around the kitchen, and no temptation to grab something highly processed, simply because it is convenient. My breakfast is a bowl of overnight oats made with organic rolled oats, ground chia seeds, and homemade soy milk. Everything soaks together overnight inside the refrigerator, allowing the oats to soften while the flavors blend naturally. In the morning, all I need to do is add fresh berries and a generous handful of walnuts. It is a remarkably simple meal, but nutritionally, it delivers almost everything I want to begin the day. This breakfast may look ordinary, but almost every ingredient has a purpose. The rolled oats provide whole grain fiber, including a remarkable type of soluble fiber known as beta-glucan. Once beta-glucan reaches the digestive system, it becomes food for beneficial bacteria living inside the gut. As those bacteria break it down, they produce short-chain fatty acids, compounds that help nourish the cells lining the colon and support a healthy inflammatory response. It is one of the reasons oats continue to appear so consistently in nutritional research whenever scientists study long-term health. Rather than creating a rapid rise in blood sugar, they provide slow, steady energy that helps me stay satisfied for much longer. The chia seeds quietly contribute another layer of nutrition. Most people think about them because of their healthy fats, but they also provide an impressive amount of fiber in a very small serving. Personally, I prefer grinding the seeds before adding them to the oats, because whole chia seeds often pass through the digestive system without fully breaking apart. Grinding them allows the digestive system to access more of the nutrients inside each seed. That means more fiber, more healthy fats, and better overall absorption. It only takes a few extra moments, but it is a small adjustment that can make the meal even more beneficial. The homemade soy milk plays an equally important role. Many people think of soy milk simply as a substitute for dairy, but I look at it differently. Soybeans are legumes, and legumes happen to be among the healthiest foods you can regularly include in your diet. They provide high-quality plant protein, naturally occurring isoflavones, calcium, and additional fiber. I usually prepare my own soy milk using nothing more than organic soybeans and water. The process takes a little time, but most of that time, the machine is doing the work while I move on with other things. The result is fresh, inexpensive, and made from ingredients I completely understand. If you prefer buying soy milk from the grocery store, I would simply encourage you to choose one with the shortest ingredient list possible. In many cases, soybeans and water are all you really need. Then come the berries. They are easily one of my favorite parts of breakfast because they add both flavor and extraordinary nutritional value. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries all contain large amounts of polyphenols, naturally occurring compounds that help protect cells from oxidative stress. One interesting pattern you will notice throughout nature is that deeper colors often indicate higher concentrations of these protective compounds. Rich blues, vibrant reds, and deep purples are all signs that the fruit is packed with valuable nutrients. Rather than relying on a single type of berry every day, I enjoy rotating different varieties whenever they are available because each one contributes its own unique collection of beneficial compounds. I finished the bowl with a generous handful of walnuts. They provide healthy fats, additional fiber, important minerals, and another opportunity to support the digestive system. Several long-term clinical studies have shown that people who regularly include walnuts in their diet often experience lower levels of inflammatory markers compared with people who rarely eat them. That does not mean walnuts are a miracle food. It simply means they become another small piece of a much larger picture. One healthy ingredient rarely changes everything by itself, but when many healthy ingredients appear together every single day, the cumulative effect becomes remarkably powerful. By the time I finish breakfast, I have already consumed close to half of my daily fiber goal. I generally aim for around 30 grams of fiber each day because research consistently shows that people who regularly reach that level tend to have healthier digestive systems and are less likely to have elevated levels of C-reactive protein, one of the blood markers commonly associated with inflammation. Even more importantly, I have already introduced several different plant foods into my day before most people have finished their first cup of coffee. Oats, chia seeds, soybeans, berries, and walnuts each contribute something unique. Together they create a meal that nourishes not only me, but also the enormous community of beneficial microbes living inside my digestive system. There is something else I want you to notice. Breakfast has already provided 3 of the 4 nutritional pillars that quietly appear throughout my entire day. Fiber is already there, polyphenols are already there, healthy fats are already there. The only one still missing is fermented food, and we will get to that a little later. I never force these nutrients into my meals. They simply appear naturally, because the foods I enjoy eating happen to contain them. That is exactly the type of routine I encourage people to build. When healthy choices become effortless, consistency becomes much easier. But breakfast is only the beginning. One of the most overlooked habits for lowering inflammation actually happens after the meal is finished. It is not another food. It is not another supplement. In fact, it does not involve eating anything at all. One of the simplest habits I have built into my day happens after almost every meal. As soon as I finish eating, I try to get up and move. I am not talking about running, lifting weights, or turning every meal into a workout. Most of the time, it is nothing more than a comfortable walk around the neighborhood. Sometimes it lasts 10 minutes. Sometimes a little longer if the weather is nice. The point is not distance, speed, or burning calories. The point is simply to keep the body moving while digestion is getting started. It is a habit that requires very little effort, yet it consistently delivers benefits that many people never expect. Research has shown that light walking after a meal can significantly reduce the rise in both blood sugar and insulin compared with remaining seated. You do not need expensive equipment or a fitness program to experience those benefits. Even if the weather keeps you indoors, walking around the house for a few minutes, or performing several gentle bodyweight squats, can activate the large muscles in your legs and encourage them to begin using glucose from the bloodstream. That small amount of movement helps smooth out the normal rise in blood sugar that follows eating. Over time, that becomes another important piece of supporting long-term inflammation. The answer begins with what happens after a large spike in blood sugar. Higher glucose levels create additional oxidative stress throughout the body. Repeated spikes can also place extra pressure on the protective barrier lining the digestive system. When that barrier becomes less efficient, the immune system has to work harder, and chronic low-grade inflammation becomes more likely. A short walk after eating is certainly not a miracle cure, but it helps reduce some of that metabolic stress before it has an opportunity to accumulate. For a habit that takes only a few minutes, the return is remarkably impressive. By the time lunchtime arrives, I like to keep things as simple as possible. Most days I am not preparing an entirely new meal. Instead, I open the refrigerator and reach for whatever I cooked earlier in the week. Today that happens to be chili made a couple of evenings ago. On another day, it could just as easily be vegetable soup, lentil stew, or another hearty meal that is already waiting for me. The exact recipe is never the most important part. What matters is the overall structure. Once you understand that structure, you can build countless healthy meals without constantly searching for new recipes. There are two foods that I almost always keep prepared in advance because they make healthy eating incredibly convenient. The first is a large batch of cooked legumes. Once each week we prepare beans using garlic, onions, and a handful of simple seasonings. Black beans, chickpeas, lentils, navy beans, and kidney beans all rotate through the kitchen depending on what we feel like eating that week. They are inexpensive, satisfying, rich in fiber, and packed with nutrients that most people simply do not consume often enough. The second food I always keep available is a cooked whole grain. Sometimes it is farro, sometimes it is quinoa, other weeks it might be brown rice. Cooking these foods ahead of time removes much of the effort from preparing healthy meals later in the week. There is another interesting reason I enjoy leftovers. Believe it or not, they can actually become even more beneficial after spending time in the refrigerator. Foods rich in starch, including legumes and whole grains, naturally develop more resistant starch as they cool. Resistant starch behaves differently from ordinary starch because it travels much farther through the digestive system before becoming food for beneficial bacteria living inside the colon. That means yesterday's chili served over reheated whole grains may actually provide even greater support for the digestive system than it did when it was first prepared. It is one of the few situations where leftovers become nutritionally more valuable because they remain one of the most underrated foods in the modern American diet. They are affordable enough for almost every budget, they store well for long periods of time, and they provide an extraordinary combination of fiber, plant protein, vitamins, minerals, and beneficial plant compounds. A single serving contributes a substantial amount of fiber while also helping nourish the community of beneficial bacteria living inside the digestive system. As those bacteria continue breaking down fiber and resistant starch, they produce even more short-chain fatty acids, compounds that help support the cells lining the colon and contribute to a healthier inflammatory response. It is another example of how ordinary foods quietly perform extraordinary work without drawing much attention to themselves. Whenever possible, I also like adding a fresh salad beside lunch. I never overcomplicate it. I simply open the refrigerator and see what vegetables happen to be available. Carrots, cucumbers, leafy greens, cherry tomatoes, bell peppers, radishes, or almost anything colorful can become part of the meal. Then I reach into the pantry for another opportunity to increase variety. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, or another handful of walnuts all work beautifully. Finally, I finish everything with extra virgin olive oil, fresh lemon juice, a splash of balsamic vinegar, a little sea salt, and freshly ground black pepper. Good quality extra virgin olive oil naturally contains large amounts of polyphenols, and that slightly peppery sensation you sometimes notice in the back of your throat is actually one sign that many of those beneficial compounds are still present. One final addition often completes my lunch, and it is something many people have forgotten how to appreciate: a slice of traditional whole grain sourdough bread. Whenever I buy bread, I spend less time looking at the front of the package and much more time reading the ingredient list. The shorter that list is, the happier I usually am. Flour, water, salt, and a natural sourdough starter are often all that are needed. Bread does not have to be complicated to be nourishing. When it is made using simple ingredients and traditional methods, it can fit beautifully into a healthy eating pattern. By the time lunch is over, something important has already happened without requiring much planning. I have eaten an impressive variety of different plant foods. Beans, whole grains, leafy vegetables, tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, herbs, seeds, olive oil, and fermented grains from sourdough all contribute something slightly different. None of them are extraordinary by themselves. Their strength comes from working together. Every additional plant introduces new fibers, different antioxidants, unique vitamins, and countless natural compounds that support the community of beneficial bacteria living inside the digestive system. Variety is quietly doing the heavy lifting. After lunch, I repeat the same habit that followed breakfast. I get up and move. It might be another short walk outside if the weather is pleasant. If I happen to be working indoors, I simply spend a few minutes walking around the house before returning to my desk. I never think of it as exercise. Instead, I think of it as giving the digestive system a little extra support. It helps food move comfortably through the digestive tract, keeps energy levels more stable, and prevents that heavy feeling that often follows a large meal. Because there is something much bigger happening throughout the day. Many people spend years searching for one miracle food that will solve every health problem. Others believe the answer must be hidden inside an expensive supplement or the newest wellness trend. That is not what the evidence continues to show. What consistently separates healthier people from everyone else is not one special ingredient. It is the overall pattern of their eating habits. Diversity matters. Consistency matters. The foods you choose repeatedly have a much greater influence than any single meal ever could. One of the largest microbiome studies ever performed illustrates this point beautifully. Researchers involved in the American Gut Project collected information from more than 10,000 participants and examined the diversity of the microbes living inside their digestive systems. They wanted to understand which eating patterns were associated with the healthiest microbial communities. Many people expected one particular diet to stand above all the others. Some believed it would be people following a completely plant-based lifestyle. Others assumed another highly structured approach would produce the best results. Instead, the strongest predictor turned out to be something remarkably simple. The healthiest digestive systems belong to people who regularly ate the greatest variety of different plant foods. That finding eventually led to a recommendation many of you have probably heard before. Aim for around 30 different plant foods each week. The number itself is not magical. Eating 28 one week and 32 the next is not going to suddenly change your health. The real lesson is diversity. Every fruit, vegetable, legume, nut, seed, herb, and whole grain contains its own unique combination of fibers, polyphenols, vitamins, minerals, and natural plant compounds. Different fibers nourish different groups of beneficial bacteria. Different polyphenols trigger different biological responses throughout the body. The more diverse your diet becomes, the more diverse and resilient your digestive ecosystem becomes as well. If you think back over everything I have eaten so far today, you can already see that principle unfolding naturally. Breakfast included oats, chia seeds, soybeans, berries, and walnuts. Lunch added legumes, whole grains, leafy vegetables, tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, herbs, seeds, olive oil, and sourdough. None of those foods were chosen because they were fashionable. They were chosen because, together, they create an eating pattern that naturally supports better health. There is no need to obsess over every nutrient, because the diversity of whole foods quietly provides what the body needs. That is one of the reasons I enjoy eating this way. It feels simple, sustainable, and completely realistic. I usually want to keep things light, because this is often my most productive time of the day. I do not want a heavy meal slowing me down or leaving me ready for a nap. I want steady energy, a clear mind, and the ability to stay focused for several more hours. One of my favorite afternoon drinks is matcha. Besides providing a gentle source of caffeine, matcha contains an impressive collection of polyphenols that continue supporting overall health. I often think of it as another opportunity to nourish both the brain and the digestive system without relying on sugary drinks or highly processed snacks. If I become hungry during the afternoon, I keep my snack as uncomplicated as possible. Most days, that simply means reaching for a piece of fresh fruit. A crisp apple is usually my first choice, because it is portable, naturally sweet, satisfying, and another excellent source of fiber. During certain times of the year, I also enjoy sumo oranges. They are certainly more expensive than ordinary oranges, but every now and then, they are worth bringing home. More importantly, choosing whole fruit instead of highly processed snacks gives my body another opportunity to benefit from naturally occurring fiber, vitamins, and plant compounds, while avoiding the rapid blood sugar swings that often follow packaged convenience foods. One of the biggest differences I have noticed since adopting this style of eating is what happens during the afternoon. Many people experience a noticeable drop in energy a few hours after lunch. They begin reaching for another cup of coffee, an energy drink, or something sugary just to stay awake. That cycle becomes so common that people often assume it is normal. In reality, much of that afternoon crash is influenced by what happened earlier in the day. Meals built around refined carbohydrates and highly processed foods tend to produce much larger swings in blood sugar, followed by an equally noticeable decline in energy. When meals are built around whole foods that digest more slowly, energy tends to remain much steadier. That steady energy is one of the reasons I continue eating this way. I do not feel as though I am constantly fighting my own body. Instead of spending the afternoon trying to recover from a heavy lunch, I can continue working, thinking clearly, and staying productive until the evening arrives. The goal is not to feel unusually energetic. The goal is to avoid those dramatic highs and lows that make so many people feel exhausted before the day is even over. Stable energy often feels much better than constantly chasing quick bursts, and this is usually one of my favorite meals of the entire day. More often than not, I prepare a burrito bowl. Some people hear that name and immediately assume it cannot possibly fit into a healthy eating pattern, but everything depends on what actually goes into the bowl. The foundation begins with farro, one of my favorite whole grains. Farro provides fiber, plant protein, magnesium, and slowly digested carbohydrates that help provide lasting energy instead of creating a rapid rise in blood sugar. On top of the farro, I add a generous serving of black beans that were prepared earlier in the week with garlic, onions, cumin, and a few simple seasonings. Those beans contribute even more fiber, additional plant protein, and another excellent source of nourishment for the beneficial bacteria living inside the digestive system. Next comes the fresh salsa, and this is where the meal really begins coming alive. I chop together ripe tomatoes, onions, fresh cilantro, lime juice, and a little jalapeno. Personally, I enjoy making it fairly spicy, but everyone can adjust the heat according to personal preference. Tomatoes provide lycopene, one of the most extensively studied antioxidant compounds found in food. Interestingly, chopping tomatoes or cooking them actually makes lycopene easier for the body to absorb. Even more fascinating is the fact that lycopene becomes even more available when it is eaten together with healthy fats. That brings us to the next ingredient. I usually add at least half of a ripe avocado. Most people immediately associate avocados with healthy fats, and for good reason, but they also contain an impressive amount of fiber. That combination supports both cardiovascular health and digestive health at the same time. After the avocado comes a generous sprinkle of pumpkin seeds. Besides adding a satisfying crunch, they provide magnesium, zinc, healthy fats, and several important minerals that many people simply do not consume in sufficient amounts. Before I consider the meal finished, I usually look through the refrigerator one more time to see what else can increase the diversity of plants on the plate. Chopped red onions, shredded cabbage, sliced radishes, fresh herbs, green onions, or additional tomatoes all become opportunities to introduce even more variety. Every additional plant contributes something slightly different, and over time, those differences begin missing. And it happens to be the fourth nutritional pillar that has quietly appeared throughout this entire day. Fermented food. This is one of the easiest habits to overlook, because fermented foods rarely become the main attraction of a meal. Instead, they quietly support the digestive system in the background. Whenever possible, I like choosing a fermented food that naturally complements whatever I am eating. With a burrito bowl, my favorite choice is kimchi. I always serve it cold because excessive heat can reduce the number of living cultures that make fermented foods so valuable. It adds another layer of flavor, another layer of variety, and another opportunity to support the community of beneficial microbes that work so hard inside the digestive system every single day. When I step back and look at the finished meal, I realize it contains exactly what I have been trying to build throughout the entire day. Whole grains, legumes, colorful vegetables, healthy fats, seeds, herbs, and fermented foods all come together in one bowl. Once again, fiber is there, polyphenols are there, healthy fats are there, fermented foods are there as well. But the real strength of this meal is not any single ingredient. It is the remarkable diversity of plants working together. Every ingredient contributes something slightly different, and together they create a meal that supports the digestive system in a way no single food ever could. That is the pattern I want people to notice. Variety is the strategy. The meal is simply the delivery system. There is another habit you may have noticed repeating throughout my day. After every meal, I try to remain physically active. Dinner is no exception. Most evenings, my son and I have our own little basketball challenge outside. It has become one of our favorite family traditions. We spend time together, laugh a great deal, and move our bodies without thinking of it as exercise. I am much taller than he is, and you would probably assume I win every game. Let us just say he continues becoming a much tougher opponent every year. Fortunately, keeping score has never been the important part. The important part is creating another opportunity to stay active while enjoying time together as a family. That gentle movement after dinner serves the same purpose as the walks earlier in the day. It helps support digestion, encourages healthy blood sugar regulation, and gives the body another opportunity to keep working efficiently after a meal. It does not require a gym membership or an elaborate exercise program. Sometimes it is basketball, sometimes it is simply a walk through the neighborhood. Other evenings, it may be working outside in the yard for a little while. The specific activity is far less important than the habit itself. Once something becomes part of your daily routine, it no longer feels like another task on your schedule. It simply becomes part of the way you live. As the evening begins winding down, I try to finish dinner as early as I reasonably can. Of course, life does not always cooperate. There are evenings when work runs late, family plans change, or dinner simply happens later than expected. But whenever possible, I like finishing my final meal around 7 in the evening. The reason has nothing to do with another dieting rule. It has everything to do with how the digestive system naturally works. During the night, the body shifts much of its attention away from digesting food and toward repairing and restoring itself. The lining of the digestive tract begins renewing its cells. The community of beneficial microbes changes its activity, and many important recovery processes quietly take place while you sleep. The earlier digestion is finished, the more time the body has to focus on those important repair functions. Instead of continuing I follow one simple rule that has made a noticeable difference in the way I feel each morning. Once dinner is finished, I do not eat anything else until breakfast the following day. No late evening snacks. No candy while watching television. No handfuls of chips before bed. No alcohol at the end of the night. I will admit this is probably the habit I find most challenging, because temptation still exists. Every now and then I walk past the pantry and immediately start thinking about popcorn or another favorite snack. The desire has certainly not disappeared. The difference is, that experience has taught me something valuable. Every time I resist that temptation and allow my digestive system to rest through the night, I wake up feeling noticeably better the following morning. That feeling has gradually become more rewarding than any late-night snack ever could. If I want something before going to bed, I usually choose a small glass of pomegranate juice or tart cherry juice instead. Both naturally contain beneficial plant compounds that fit well within the overall eating pattern I follow. More importantly, they satisfy the desire for something enjoyable without becoming another heavy meal. They have quietly become part of my evening routine because they allow me to finish the day feeling satisfied while still giving my digestive system the opportunity to rest before sleep. As the evening continues, I begin preparing for sleep just as intentionally as I prepared for the rest of the day. Around 9 in the evening, I start dimming the lights throughout the house and limiting my exposure to bright screens. This is another habit that has grown out of personal experience rather than convenience. Whenever I spend too much time working on my computer late into the evening, I almost always notice the difference that night. Falling asleep becomes more difficult, my sleep feels lighter, and I rarely wake up feeling as refreshed the next morning. Over time, I stopped treating that as a coincidence and started treating it as valuable feedback from my own body. Sleep is far more than a period of rest. It is one of the most active periods of repair your body experiences during an entire day. While you are asleep, hormones are carefully regulated, damaged tissues begin repairing themselves, memories are organized, and the immune system performs countless tasks that most of us never think about. The digestive system also continues working in a very different way than it does during the day. Instead of focusing primarily on processing meals, it shifts more of its attention toward maintenance and recovery. That is another reason I prefer finishing dinner early and avoiding food later in the evening. I want my digestive system spending the night repairing itself, rather than continuing to digest another meal. There is one more habit that I consider just as important as everything I have shown you so far. I try to go to bed at approximately the same time every night. Most conversations about sleep focus almost entirely on the number of hours you spend in bed. While getting enough sleep is certainly important, consistency matters just as much. Every organ, every hormone, every immune cell, and every beneficial microbe living inside your digestive system follows its own internal schedule. When your bedtime changes dramatically from one night to the next, those biological rhythms become less coordinated. When you maintain a fairly consistent sleep schedule, the entire system works together influences far more than simply how rested you feel the next morning. A stable sleep schedule helps regulate hormone production, supports healthy blood sugar control, improves digestive function, strengthens immune activity, and contributes to a healthier inflammatory response over time. None of those changes happen because of one perfect night of sleep. They develop gradually, just like every other healthy habit we have discussed today. Once again, consistency quietly accomplishes what intensity rarely can. If you step back and look at this entire day, you will notice something interesting. There have been no miracle foods, no expensive supplements, and no complicated detox plans. Nothing about this routine is particularly dramatic. Instead, the entire day has been built around simple habits repeated consistently from morning until night. Water before anything else, natural light shortly after waking, gentle movement before breakfast and after every meal, whole foods prepared in advance, plenty of fiber, colorful fruits and vegetables, healthy fats, fermented foods, and a wide variety of different plants. Dinner finished early whenever possible. No late-night snacking. A consistent bedtime. None of those habits are extraordinary by themselves, but together they create an environment where the body is able to function remarkably well. That is one of the biggest lessons I hope you take away from this video. Better health is rarely built through dramatic changes. It is usually built through ordinary decisions repeated so often that they eventually become second nature. Most people spend years searching for one perfect diet, one perfect supplement, or one perfect food that will solve every problem. In reality, the answer is usually much less exciting and much more practical. The body responds to patterns. It responds to consistency. Every healthy choice may seem small in the moment, but those choices accumulate day after day until they eventually shape the way you feel, the way your metabolism functions, and the way your body manages inflammation over the long term. If everything we covered in this video has been helpful and you would like to learn more about how inflammation affects your health, I have something I think you will really enjoy. I created a free workshop where I explain how inflammation develops, why it plays such an important role in long-term health, and how you can build your own daily routine using the same principles you have seen throughout this video. I walk through the science in a way that is easy to understand, while also giving you practical strategies that you can begin applying immediately. You can find the link in the description below if you would like to continue learning. Thank you for spending part of your day with All About Health. I truly appreciate every minute you choose to spend here, and I never take that for granted. I hope this video has shown you that improving your health does not require perfection. It simply requires a willingness to make small, thoughtful choices and repeat them consistently over time. Start with one habit. Let it become part of your daily life. Then build from there. Before long, those small changes begin working together in ways that are much more powerful than you might imagine. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.